One of the Senate races in Georgia heated up as a Republican incumbent Senator David Perdue faced off against Democratic challenger Jon Ossoff in a debate this week. Ossoff criticized Perdue's support of the PROTECT Act. Let's take a listen to that.
You did say COVID-19 was no deadlier than the flu. You did say there would be no significant uptick in cases. All the while, you were looking after your own assets and your own portfolio, and you did vote 4 times to end protections for pre-existing conditions. 4 times. And the legislation that you tout, the PROTECT Act, it includes loopholes that specifically allow insurance companies to deny policies to Georgians with pre-existing conditions.
Friend of the show and editor-at-large of Jacobin, David Sirota, joins us now to talk about that and the broader healthcare landscape as we head into Election Day. Great to see you, Dave.
Good to see you.
So we're not big Jon Ossoff stands here in general.
No.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
But I thought I thought he delivered that very well. And actually, amusingly, after that, Perdue was like, you know what? Let's not do any more debates. I think we're good here, and back down of the final debate. What did you glean from that message? And also, are there any indications that you could bring to us about what you think a Biden administration might actually pursue on the healthcare front?
Look, I agree with you that Jon Ossoff is not a great, huge progressive hero. He's a more conservative Democrat, but I think he's run a campaign where he's really taken it to David Perdue in a very powerful way. And that clip, I think, shows that he's run a good campaign. And he's right on the merits there in that particular refrain that the Republicans, Senate Republicans, have been running around with this bill called the PROTECT Act saying, hey, if the courts get rid of pre-existing condition protections, we've got this bill that'll put the protections back in. And that's just not true, because the bill that they've been touting, as we reported at the Daily Poster, the fine print of the bill actually gets rid of a number of major protections that people rely on. You always have to read the fine print. So there's really a big bait and switch going on here. And a lot of Republican senators are holding up that bill to try to essentially deceive voters across the country. Now, you asked the question about what healthcare is going to look like if Joe Biden becomes president. You know, I think Biden has predicated in a smart way the campaign, and I mean politically smart, the campaign on this narrow question of pre-existing condition protections versus no pre-existing condition protections. And in the short term, there's a smart political argument for that. It's a narrow debate. Pre-existing condition protections are extremely popular. So it makes, in some senses, tactical sense. I mean, I support Medicare for all. I think Joe Biden should be supporting Medicare for all on the campaign trail. It is wildly popular. He's decided not to do that. That's a campaign decision. But here's the other point, which is that once Biden is president, I really think he faces a big problem in that the Affordable Care Act is not that popular because I think people have learned in the pandemic that the Affordable Care Act has not actually guaranteed them coverage, that they can lose their coverage if they have their coverage through an employer. Millions of people have lost their coverage. Premiums have continued to increase. In a sense, history has proven the ACA to be not very effective at guaranteeing health care to Americans. And I think that while the short-term politics make sense of talking about pre-existing conditions and the like, because the Republicans have such an extreme position on that particular issue, that long term, once he's president, people are going to be asking, I need health care. How are we going to actually guarantee health care in a real way? And that's really going to be where the question is. Is Joe Biden serious about going significantly beyond the ACA when he is president?
That's the interesting question, David, which is that he said, I'm going to make it Biden care, but it's not going to be Medicare for all. What does that look like? He said he's not going to. He said he's going to go for a public option. It's who knows what the Senate and all of that is going to look like. And what are the various scenarios through which Biden care could play out? Because from where I look at it, it looks like he's walking right back into the ACA disaster, and he's going to get screwed during the midterms if he doesn't do it properly.
I think you're right in the prediction, in the sense that if he does not seriously deal with healthcare in a robust way, that there could be a backlash. And it's a larger point here. I think if the Democrats do not deliver in a very serious, concrete way for working people across this country, we could see a repeat of 2022, the backlash to, we voted for change and then change was not delivered. That, to me, is the story of 2008 to 2010. And that could be the story of 2022 if Biden doesn't get really serious on healthcare. Scenario one, a serious, robust public option open to everybody that provides and guarantees real benefits. That would be a decent scenario. It's not Medicare for all. A less good scenario is a very weak public option that is, with the details written into it, designed to not really effectively compete with the insurers. That's what the insurance companies are going to try to do, is to say, okay, if Joe Biden's going to push a promised public option, we'll try to make it not guarantee very many benefits. We'll try to make it not all that affordable. We will try to essentially make it, a secondary kind of situation. And here's the thing: Biden has somewhat signaled that he may do that. I mean, he has said in the debates, and it's a question of did he kind of screw up the details, or does he really mean this? He sort of said, look, the public option is only going to be for very poor people. It's not really going to be for everybody. He sort of suggested that, as opposed to a universal program. So if he's moving in that direction, he's moving in the direction of what the insurance companies want. And to my mind, it will not be adequate to the crisis that we face.
No, I think that's a disastrous direction to go in, because you also could then create this like two-tiered healthcare system, not that we don't already have that. One of the other really key questions here is, Obama was out recently. He's got his book coming out. He's lamenting that he wanted to do the public option that crazy people like you and me were pushing him to do, but he just didn't have the votes, and we just got to understand that. And so part of the landscape here is two. Number one, will Biden get rid of the filibuster? And number two, is the public option, if he doesn't get rid of the filibuster, is the public option something that could be passed through budget reconciliation, which would also only require a majority vote? Can you talk about some of those pieces?
Sure, that's a great question. And here's the thing, is that there was a chance to try to test that theory out back in 2009 and 2010. And the Senate Democrats, when they controlled the Senate, refused to actually bring up the public option for a vote in budget reconciliation. It is the history that has been lost. It is the history that every liberal doesn't want to remember, because they don't want to remember that the Democrats had control to try to do what they could, use their power to actually pass it. Instead, the Democrats agreed to not even bring it up for a vote, to not actually put senators on the spot to vote in a budget reconciliation situation to try to use their power to pass it. So is it possible? I believe it's possible. I think back in 2009, 2010, it seemed very possible. The real question is whether there will be political will to do it, whether those incoming senators, if they win, if these senators in these vulnerable races win. And here's the thing. We've reported that most, if not all, of the senators, the Democratic Senate candidates running in those tough states, have committed to passing a public option. The question is going to be whether the Biden administration pushes it and whether those senators actually are willing to follow through on their campaign rhetoric. There is going to be a lot of insurance money to try to stop it or weaken it and create the same scenario that unfolded in 2009, 2010, where suddenly the Democrats had control of the Senate and then said, you know what, we don't really know if we can do this. We don't feel like doing this. We're not going to do this. We don't have the votes to do it. And if that's the case, again, I think there's going to be a backlash in 2022.
Yeah, really interesting.
Great having you to lay this all out, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Next up on Rising, Team Rising is going to be here. We're going to talk about what it will take for Trump to pull out a win against Biden, if that's still on the table, when Rising continues.